The chair members of RDC, this is your leadership meeting with U.S. Department of the Interior, BIA, Indian Affairs, Regional Office, and the Division of Natural Resources for Tuesday, January 11th, 2022 at 9 a.m. This is roll call. Honorable Ricky Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez is present.
Rick Nez is present. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Key Allen Begay. Honorable Herman M. Daniels. Honorable Mark A. Freeland.
Morning, Delegate Freeland's on.
Mark A. Freeland is present. Honorable Wilson C. Stewart Jr.
Present.
Wilson C. Stewart Jr. is present. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Honorable Herman M. Daniels. Chair, you have 3 members present, but you don't need a quorum for this leadership meeting. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi. We'll go ahead down to invocation. Honorable Stewart, could you do the invocation, please?
Question, Chair. Again, good morning, Sinai. Our staff, I don't hear from the phone this morning at all. So we'll go ahead and say a short prayer this morning to start our day and our second day of the week. In God and the corner and the corner, has J1. Dan nog leni kon die in de net dan nog leni kon Arnold ko do ni tsu son yejen lo ko do ni just nada so le di bini bi not e corner bi na ne ka na ne da de corner di bin no di je corner do ni kon na do da kon ni agenda Lenigi Resource Development Committee members in Lenigi corner in the staff and Lenigi corner ben hilta hajol na yido ben hil ahazan da le higi corner yat e to le kwa by yadel kit la be need ino le corner out honest so kon hitrayana da hot eto le he keklat don hit sit arch kon yat e kon it's is in Lenigi corner yat e kon di corner ishin all the corner COVID-19 con hits on when later le corner don hits on Queensland le corner don he gain lean on hit gas na biketa hit any corner so able both corner in the corner he went has anage yat e kon he one non on the corner in the yat e corner lot he gain lean corner he reject and Lenigi in the corner he mother corner he jada corner in the corner yat e kon bikena hit any le corner he chin and lean the corner and so can he look at and lean corner yat e kon bikena da hit in the corner he not close and lean corner in the corner not close corner so another hot etolite corner conflict could be the bogando the corner in some cut and that kago than that corner at corner also benedly this morning corner in the corner digital what they glow yat corner natural yat corner ne carlas nane dar the corner in the corner that he's allowed on lean corner and then he fire department EMTs on lean corner but hot etolite corner in the corner he's there and the shoot that corner nurses and doctors and leaning corner so in the counselors and leaning corner so I had a corner he yata just hit the corner so he got the legal iconic aid a corner without a in the end just this in the end not each continent corner this morning corner and the corner so the executive branch and Lenny corner, the president or the vice president, Lenny corner, the corner, Ned and Lenny corner, the Balchin and Lenny the corner, and the division directors and Lenny the corner, the staff and Lenny corner, from the custodians, temporary employees, all the way up to the permanent employees corner, so directors, supervisors and Lenny the corner, up to the other hot Italy corner, and the corner families and loved ones that corner, the other hot Italy corner, and the corner, as well as some programs, departments, Lenny corner, they're closed corner due to the variant corner. Keep them in safety corner, help us to come back into working into our offices again, corner to the offices again, corner. That's non-Gallup. These numbers corner every day, corner we get these numbers and these stats, corner as far as the infections go, corner. Could you help us keep those numbers down, corner, and help our people to remain vigilant, corner. Corner the haliaro that corner the whole corner and that you cut it so he didn't this morning corner the even the entrance to this engine not each council this morning corner in the corner also corner benashi like corner he taught and lead in our side and leading on he pastors he preachers and lead the corner and the corner to open have got them leaning corner to centralize and give out 8 dollars corner, the Hasa the Zenegito and the Haydn, the Okahi corner at the corner. I thought in Banada D on the corner, the Hido corner at the corner, Nicola corner at the corner. There's another date at the corner, he in the corner at the corner, the national area corner at the corner, Nanica, Lani down the corner, in the corner, he chitted and lean corner like he was calling hill over the corner at the corner, he cuts large corner at the corner, he's not over the corner. Our destination returns home and safety like that corner without even the engine, so just the engine managed completely. Ishin best said the Hagi out of bus best man the corner. She says in Dinigi, the corner should net Dinigi, the Sheraton Hudson, he yajin, he wait, switch don't put on his another song this morning corner in the art which I was not sleep, that's on he did the Ashada not was the just sleep, Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Thank you very much, Tele, Honorable Stewart, for your prayer. Introductions. We'll start with honorable members of RDC. Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Honorable Begay.
Chairman, good morning. This is Dr. Kelly.
Go ahead.
Good morning. Ja, det er også kado det det han har ikke en slag i an det så det other national 5 chapters that I represent Label touchable gap so then can with now the many farms that I could also instance so although he has how could so this be how it's the could also how could meeting out the case chairman back to you.
Thank you, Honorable Begay. Honorable Daniels. Honorable Freeland.
Chairman, good morning. Colleagues and staff, good morning. Tele, thank you for that prayer. Good morning from Crown Point. Mark Freeland this year. That's when you touch on it. Not up here on the issues. I have 8 chapters out here at Eastern Navajo. Crown Point 8, East Osikado, Nahadishkish, A Dalton Pass. Say I Standing Rock, Besant A Darad Tinigi, Kelkai Lake Valley, Telkai A White Rock, Anatlegi A Herfano, and then Nayaz A Nayazi. Out of 22 other chapters out here in Eastern Agency, 31 chapters total for representation of RDC. Good morning to one and all, and let's have a good conversation. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Honorable Stewart.
Good morning, Shana, Chairman. There's Vice Chairman Walker, Aroshana, Ketho, those staff, those Major Ketho, Mr. Tahi, Lini, in the corner. Divisions or directors, the supervisors, employees, with the nation corner, the BIA government, that corner, this morning, but Wilson C. Stewart Jr., the puts on the and Schnedo, and is touching but she's touching the sheet up between the Chanel, I don't tell it so that not shadow, I could only question this morning. I'll tell us all back at cheat when it's the only cheat without a Bakata Shah and the 45 agency for representation for the Resource Development Committee. I'll consult on. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart. Honorable Daniels. Okay, you have recognized in Shihawasan and Slen or Zay Kachin, Bashish Chains and Habit Lesher Shade, Okia, Ani A. Dashamela. That's Haga chapters, Panash, Nishige, Hogbacks, and Wan, Nena, Nazar, Upper Fruitland, Burnham, Do Newcomb. Welcome, everybody. Okay, Nana. We'll go to staff, Mr. Tahi.
Good morning, chair members of RDC. Thank you for that prayer this morning, Delegate Stewart. It's great to start off the day with a prayer. My name is Rodney Tahi. I'm Kia'ani and Senja Kine. I am the Legislative Advisor to Resource and Development Committee. and I'm originally from Steamboat, Arizona. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ty. Ms. Woody? Ms. Khan?
Good morning. Yad Ed Anatso. Yad Air Resources and Development Committee members, Danoshinigi. And good morning to all who are on the phone for today's leadership meeting. She Mariana Khan, the Shijane Donna and the Slinigi Eto Yedlini Nishin, but Ani Bashish Chin, Dash Chit Dashite, Yo Tenjikina Dashanala. I will be here to assist the committee this morning and also working on drafting resolutions. I'll be working at my desk here in Window Rock. Good morning to all. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. Ms. Siako from Speaker's Office?
Good morning, Chairman Nez, members of the Resources and Development Committee. My name is Melinda Arviso Siako. Sitna Jinin Strong Kia Ani Bashichin. Twitch ini Dashachero Dashinin Dashanella. Yad Ehbinin Hidini Do Lesto. Thank you for having us on the call. Currently Legislative Staff Assistant for the Office of the Speaker, Window Rock, Arizona. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Siako.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. This is Teresa. I'm on the line now.
Ms. Woody, you can introduce yourself.
Oh, yeah, and Mr. Chair, the RDC members, She Kodo Yat in his needle, they say Kaban Shon Deputy Buses Tinky on a Chair and National and Lay Steamboat, then who yet go Adigo in Ashado. Welcome to our meeting. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Woody. Let me go back to Honorable Daniels.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I don't think that's not after by Hale Kodo, it's not a wheel, it's not a Lekodo. I don't know Kodo should edge Herman Daniels Jr. I don't instant gave it Annie. I don't get a chain that is has got the whole that's another. I don't Poyet Lenny, not Kate Nay, that should say, what that Nanslego. I don't know a panache, Nessige Yana, not if on or Zet ho. John Toho, I don't that a big in a panache. What I need to need a lot of and he did need a less this morning. Thank you. I don't know for that the little he has done. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. We have BIA on the call with us this morning. Dr. Calvert Curley, introduce yourself.
Good morning. Yat Bene Resources and Development Committee. She Nishikochi Calvert Curley, although branch of natural resources, BIA Navajo region, other industries. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Curley. And then we have Ms. Curley.
Good morning, Yat Bennett, RDC Chair, RDC members, Vice Time, Cheryl Curley, BIA Navajo region, and we have other BIA officials on the line, including Mr. Arviso. Mr. Mahoja will be joining us momentarily. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Curley. We have other staff from BIA on the call with us. And Dr. Shabala.
Addition Chairman Ricky Nez, Ado Fishmas Anderson and Ida Affinity RDC committee members. Martin Freeland, the Key Allen Brigade, Wilson Stewart Jr., Herman Daniels, Deep Binna Anido, Jensen, Yat Edition, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Dr. Calvert Curley, Yat Bindor Days, Yat Edition, Aronana Satosh she's on this call. Ako ano soya she na Jimmy Chish de she ate on the interesting though Nash as a bus chain for the tree issues. Aro should chain the not up in the tree in the other Nazlin the are is the audit Nasha call Division of Natural Resources Executive Director. Good morning, though. Yeah. Oh, and I have a call at 10 a.m., but I have my assistants also on the call, Mrs. Brenda Holgate from Division of Natural Resources. If she will join us. I don't know that I'll be gone on the other call that long. On pause. Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Holgate? Anybody else on the call that wishes to introduce themselves? I hear none.
Good morning, Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. No, Senegal. We can just crack all this on the teacher. So, although this is Davis Silver from Office of the President, Vice President, because the chief and she don't ask you, but she's tuned and does it change to the change. I'll be listening in and taking notes. Good morning, Chair.
Sheila, glad to have you on the call with us this morning, Mr. Filford. Thank you. Appreciate all that you do working with RDC leadership. Yeah. Let me go back to BIA staff. Ms. Arviso.
Good morning, and Yat Bennett. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, Yat Bennett, and good morning, Chairman Naz, honorable members of the RDC, and other members on the line. This is Angela Arviso, the Deputy Regional Director for Trust Services, BIA Navajo Region. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Arviso. Is there anybody else from BIA?
Yeah, Bennett. This is Tony Robbins.
Oh.
Yeah, I wish you that. Shea, Thursday, Hashnet, no, planning control, no, deep hashing solo, and then giving his Sunday method, Shea, BIA, Branch of Natural Resources, Western Navajo Agency, Natural Resource Manager. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Next.
Yeah, day, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for inviting us to visit with you today and to the rest of the RCD Council Resource Committee. My name is Leonard Nota, and I'm the Nepa coordinator at the BIA Regional Office in Gallup, New Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Nota. Next.
Morning, Yat Ashe Yavrine Benali Nishia. Hunanes Diziden Ado Washington Banashnish Title A Natural Resource Specialist. Welcome Ihaha for the invite. Yujishin Jongo the Haigato.
Thank you, Ms. Benali. Next.
Yat Ashe Yada Casey Francisco da Ashe. Ogin Shlono Halso Bashashin Sena Belida She Sena Janida Shanala what I intentionally Thought on the Western Navajo Agency I don't a range land management specialist with a yasha title. Though I not and Ani the Northlindi do Chities and Arida is not Angi, but I yat incantation to Bena. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Francisco. Next.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Evan Blackstone. I'm an attorney advisor with the Department of Interior's Office of the Solicitor. We advise BIA. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning.
Sir, could you repeat your name, please?
Sure, Evan Blackstone.
Thank you, Mr. Blackstone, for joining our call. Certainly appreciate it. Next. Okay, thank you. Do we have Department of Justice on the call? We also have one of our colleagues on the call with us from the western corner there, Mr. Honorable Paul Begay at Tele.
Oh, good morning, Chair, Honorable Delegate Ricky Nez, also the Resource and Development Committee members. Beautiful morning here in Wonder Rock. So, wishing you a good day, good discussion. Thank you for allowing me to introduce myself, Honorable Ricky Nez. Education the Nan Schnedo be between Bush's chain, Torchini the Shadokia on Shinal Adata for Navay Naho Costo Ahbin Hall, Nikaya Bin Hall, Ade Anat Ahna Shak, or maybe Todo Tonahelmi, the Chi, Bisha, Kido, and our boss of the team. Ish, Labo, Etatnas, Libertas, and Ibana Shak. Again, good morning. Wishing you a good day. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Begay. We always appreciate your respectfulness. Number 2 on the agenda, the purpose of our leadership meeting this morning is the Resources and Development Committee of the Navajo Nation Council. We will be discussing with the Bureau of Indian Affairs Navajo Regional Office, as well as with the Division of Natural Resources of the Navajo Nation, to have a discussion on the former Bennett Freeze Area Integrated Management Plan. Ishin Koroba Sani Tlido Leki, BIA, Nikitanenda, Nashikishin, Koro, Nikitashtan, Ileto, Les Aja, Tunanes, Disja, former Bennett Freeze Area, but that Nego, the Integrated Management Plan, Nikishin, Kitashtan, as Neto, Leto, Bay, then again, the ideal Kiddo Les, not Anini, Clinido, or Ashi Hat Nedo Les, so. Thank you, everyone, for getting on this call this morning. We're down to number 3 on the agenda, presentation and discussions by BIA and Division of Natural Resources on the former Bennett Freeze Integrated Management Plans. So at this time, we will have the Bureau of Indian Affairs, I believe Dr. Calvert Curley, and staff, you have the floor at this time.
Thank you very much again, Chair and Resource Development Committee. This morning, the format of the presentation will be, the first 7 slides will be presented by the Navajo Nation Division Executive Director, Dr. Rudy Shabala, and thereafter we will have our Nepa, the BIA Nepa coordinator present, and then following that, we will have the Natural Resource Manager and staff from the Western Agency present. So with that, I'll give it to Dr. Shabala. Thank you.
Dr. Shabala.
Good morning. Dr. Curley, the last time you and I talked about this was a couple of months ago. And at that time, we were going to have this presented. And am I able to scroll up and down? So Dr. Curley, go ahead. And what we're talking about is we want to present to the RDC Resource and Development Committee to adopt and implement and finally, hopefully approve the final integrated resource management plan for the former Bennett Freeze area. So even yadi asahni klido arashi hashin so I'll turn it back over to Dr. Curley. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. Chaos Aniki, former Bennett Freeze. Oh, hyena, needs aunt the has. Aro 8 Ani Tongaspeda husband out on the 2005, yeah, that ended that freeze was lifted. Aro that even been Nasha Behode, Behod Astok, when's a shot hole, you saw Aro a the method of Totbasiahabas Lina Bagan or Inte or Lista no a the Quishi Nafe. There was absolutely no development for many, many years in this area of the Navajo Nation. The people were really compromised in that they couldn't do anything. They couldn't build a harbor or a home or anything. So let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the RMP was prepared in accordance with the American Indian Agricultural Resources Management Act. And this obligates the Secretary of the Interior to conduct all management activities on Indian agricultural lands in accordance with goals and objectives set forth in an approved agriculture resource management plan and in an integrated resource management plan. So the purpose of this RMP for the former Bennett Freeze area, we want to provide a strategic, vision-based, long-term tribal management plan based on Navajo Nation members, their needs, their concerns, their interests regarding their lands and their natural, and they're also the most important, probably their cultural resources. So this integrated resource management plan, we'll now call it IRMP by its acronym. And so through a self-determination agreement pursuant to the American Indian Agricultural Resources Management Act. So this final plan will be made available once the BIA receives Navajo Nation approval and so can we go to the next slide? So we're now actually in going according to the process, what we need to do to see how we can achieve this goal. So the Navajo Nation Resources and Development Committee of the Navajo Nation Council approve this IRMP. So the draft was approved October 7th, 2020. The BIA completed a final PEA in September 2021, about 3-4 months ago. But RDC, we really would need to take the final action, approve this final IRMP and select the preferred alternative. And off the top of my head, I believe there was 3 alternatives. So I'll go on to number 3, And RDC will select the preferred alternative from the two alternatives analyzed in the PEA during the NEPA process, the no action alternative and the balanced growth emphasis alternative. So these two are key. There's two alternatives, the no action alternative, leave everything as it was and is, and then the balanced growth emphasis alternative, which we'll explain. So the BIA regional director will issue a decision to adopt the IRMP based on the Navajo Nation's Resource Development Committee's recommendation. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the implementation of this IRMP and the preferred management alternative will be pursued through multiple avenues, including preparation and implementation of certain actions, which includes range management plans, conservation plans, annual work plans, and this will be in reference to final FBFA PEA on page 9 through 11, so sections 1.5. So after this, the resource specific implementation plans such as the ARMP would be consistent with or conform to the IRMP. The implementation process also includes the Navajo Nation's review of its existing regulations and codes to determine conformance with the IRMP. Prioritizing implementation of management actions may depend on funding availability, and programs may use the IRMP to support their future funding requests. The IRMP is a living document and will be updated as determined by the Navajo Nation. Can we go to the next one? So, Dr. Curley, Kodo Hadoshi, you're welcome to Nandan Shatosh Nantai.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Shabala. This slide here is shows an of the entire project process. The IRMP, if you look at that screen there, and the umbrella, the green umbrella was developed using the community input, chapter land use plans, recovery plan, and the tribal department input. So if you see the clouds above that, that's where the community land use plans, recovery plans, and tribal department input, that's where it is. If the IRMP is adopted, other management plan will be developed for more specific resource such as cropland management plan, rangeland management plan, and those plans would evaluate actual projects such as an area to be withdrawn from the farm plots or range units in the land management district 3 or woodland management plan within the former Bennett Freeze area. So this is an overall process of the integrated resource management plan. The other thing I wanted to mention also was when we present to Resources Development Committee, I believe Dr. Shabala will be the agent, and Ricky Nez was identified to be our sponsor. Thank you. And the next slide will start the presentation with the NEPA program. Mr. Nota?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Curley. Again, my name is Leonard Nota, and I'm with the NEPA program in the Gallup BIA office. And so once the plan was developed, this was evaluated through the NEPA process. And the BIA, like other federal agencies, is responsible for compliance with the National Environmental Policy Act in connection with BIA natural resource management and other federal actions. under BIA jurisdiction. NEPA requires federal agencies to assess the environmental effects of proposed federal actions prior to making decisions. The goal of NEPA is to ensure that the federal agency, in this case, the BIA, considered every significant aspect of the environmental impact of a proposed action, and to ensure that the agency will inform the public that it has considered environmental concerns through the decision-making process. A programmatic EA is a concise document that is driven by issues. The analysis is issues-based. That means the resources which would not be impacted are not discussed in the EA. The intent of the PEA is not an exhaustive list of resource discussions. Information from the IRMP would be incorporated by reference in the programmatic environmental assessment. Programmatic environmental documents are written to analyze impacts on a broad scale, and EA that is programmatic evaluates the effect of a broad range of issues or planning level decisions that may include a wide range of individual projects. Implementation of projects over a long time frame, or implementation of projects over a large geographic area, such as the former Bennett Freeze area. EAs are not programmatic, evaluate project-specific actions. The BIA has determined that a programmatic environmental analysis is the best choice for the FBFA IRMP. Thank you.
Dr. Curley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nota. With that, we'll start our presentation with the BIA Natural Resource Western Agency. Tony?
Yeah, not quite. It's not die. The data showing that having son the na Michigan is shot is net only. Aro the I need the interdisciplinary team the jo the Navajo Nation do BIA bishwa hashing so the anihiki do hashing so dina na nish the chingi jo quite she's not on the ship at all hashing quite the nachi the not ahad the integrated resource management and the Neniki jo ADA hashing so the Abenda and Kichesa, a dead house in the interdisciplinary team than Zeniki, a hashing so and him the nanny Zeniki and Jacado, Circade and Lingua. I cut all hashing so respect the house and door as got the art and neck echo showed out Iniki door has ADP respect the house and Niki joy that if David Nachiki not ahadelia. Aro also diki yati the na article bit not abida det iki but ischa dalia ayego asanda atleko do aro ischa dal aro also not anita no seneki to the queen shing so ni sasi link or the data on that so aro so the wash saka hot sunday da inishigi to nana so edo beslane take or so the na happy ito yeso with ego they need indo the higi to a hot ego bendashi nish to a bendashi quite and $100 $1,000 to adi ayego ben as the shigi to a quite in hapa and $100 so a bendashi kudo diche kudo ada so nana shit had the neto aron that dot aso chudo in kiki chudo in ki alpha da go console now last ana sha explain the area the nanny clinicin sala hot sunday about athiki to a benachi hashing so ba afani sendo do benachi hajo na hat ato links to the strategic plan with the thing jo has jo be hausen got the naskon le quina khade shinas des in hade ego hale ego kehani tindo ila otani lino hale ego la na ni clinic na la na ni clinic jo e ba apani tsna ba na chi ki ho ta strategic with the nia ainly na sta ha quid shin quina khade shin da in jing ada digi ego这还是按照的，第一啊也还是按过也按照的，是你去做个呀，你那还给啊，然后做的说还是什么第一按还按那个，就被还是按那个个，被还是按那个个呀，第到您说不那是一个说呀，National Environmental Policy Act，你个把它到的，说说。Hashing so stop di bida deti ki dati ado sto state yes ti sa iro the way but that is agi da is isha da is sao cho bina cheki di na agi na be a house do jo ego sa na ni to ha sa but
Dr. Curley?
Hello, can you hear me? I'm not sure what happened, but we'll go ahead.
We can hear you.
Mr. Casey Francisco, are you available?
Yeah, I'm available.
Slide
Can you hear
12.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, what? I must have got muted somehow. So I don't know when I got muted.
Slide 12, Tony.
Slide 12. Okay, public participation. Yeah. This question. D cup na Kiligia. D quite December 1st on the touch it third year. We had a 45-day public scoping period. November 16th on the December J. PA programmatic environmental assessment. I don't deep in the because was unable the the virtual ego the outreach meetings with the PA with the Isha quite I been not $1,000. I don't think any nana Shina June 2nd or June 5th, Nana, so a quite get so that never that on Nana until the final DVD. Yeah, I didn't never that on that. A quite a so Nana quite a and Saki so great up this I get out had a door, I see door and the had a joke as Dominic that a quite a Nana, Sito, a Benashi, Nana, I don't know a quite a dean. Never that on Nana, and we had 4 virtual outreach meetings at Quaganana to 80. Never that on Nick Hakoti without we not to 8 arches. Nick at what do up and plan like a baby on ego babies with each chance. Yeah, I don't start even that $1,000 so 80. Basically, and I don't these patients that case of it all says I'm not so sticky social media, but the energy so I thought I would ego be in the cargo and never $1,000 been yak on that store baby and a day yeah aro to ya ko ya so hade shin na so ich behaupten da de hini zene die bin da ko ja de ja aro to ya hat na da ya do aro ni che da ya gi jo so idna da de tin o sa ka shin so go na chi ki di na ada na PA bidi ne ki programmatic environmental assessment nana kas next Akoko Edina Kigla has ongoing datis as media ako. AD proposed action with the NIA a quaggy egon hadrola dagi cho in Bahausen Olia. The two alternatives with the NIA, the no action alternative with the NIA, the balanced growth emphasis alternative. A what ego shin, what ego ni datos an kade. Next. No action with the NIA. RMP would not adopt and implement objectives or resource management. Pero current land use and resource management activities will continue using existing laws and policies, land use practices, management plans, and agreements. FBFA-wide planning and direction for desired development and land management would not occur, and land management areas would not be delineated. There would be no long-range management plan based on Navajo Nation members' interests, needs, and concerns for their lands and natural and cultural resources. The BIA would not have a guiding document for secretaries' land management activities carried under the American Indian Agricultural Resource Management Act. So a no action alternative di ninigiya. Ashing need hashing so I that ala band they thought I nisto a condidi na agi dojo don dit ango but no action with the niniga ashko thought nigo. A shame so I has anigi ego. Doka the inishigi ego shin nasko doldi. So a the not agido asago is on the so a got thousand go I could kayate. Hashing so I that I niche could Saga Sunday, I niche no Washington, they need niche could Ashing would air they need niche on it. Upon that, he integrated the need dojo, assist dojo, assist Nishiki upper than on the store. Hashing so it's a tanda the Katikita. She would air with Abeni Nagi dojo assist the shadow this upon that. Absolutely. Next. Preferred alternative to AD balanced growth emphasis alternative. The preliminary alternatives was developed based on the IRMP is the balanced growth emphasis alternative. The alternative supports environmentally and culturally responsible growth and economic development. Considers current Navajo protection zones, restrictions on development, as well as require more robust integrated management techniques identified in the IRMP. Development of FBFA land would be in line with goals and objectives of the IRMP, focuses on balancing growth and economic development with minimal impacts on environmental and cultural resources. I give you the balanced growth emphasis. Energy ego, not ego, then ego. Needs and all this. Need the Nakat in the not upper that date, the former benefits, the cat in the Nascoti and the Ayat Elkani Tindons and Yat or Hashing so not the charter than Lingo or Yat Eco Tot Toyat Agidon, Nishiat Eto, the Sto Aro, the Sentis Yat Yatas, the Danzengo to ADG. Do aro to ara kaya has an hashing so to kaya lingo sa quake aro to the nanny clinic hashing so she quake all kaya better date hala the quake na glosta halon filling halon do da ha di no na has anneki do ni all in kina gada hashin so bida det kon has anneki also alke ego ba honi zendo het ba hu ya go nasto for the show the teacher a kwage the balance growth emphasis to the ne aro na shiki to di I that the now saka hot sande hot aliki to the Navajo Washington niki to kwage the kaya had the house so I that la so she about Hanos and Johan the resource development committee of Siniki I that she hasn't so by land I see of the national at these gene debate I need to stop so it did quite get the proposed action is based on implementation of the balanced growth emphasis alternative, considers current Navajo Nation protection zones and restrictions on development, and requires the more robust integrated management techniques identified in the IRMP. This alternative supports environmentally and culturally responsible growth and economic development by identifying land management areas for conservation areas, development focused areas, restricted development areas, agricultural and open space areas. Let's go over each of these conservation areas designation. So it did quite get the balanced growth emphasis alternative yadoya. So a ajogo a yadi tinko has ago shin I that behousing okay ya hada so ya do behousing a the conservation land management areas. So I don't so development focused land management areas, restricted development land management areas. I don't so the akatan zero na dosha rei hado akaya hagi hot ego was ago da biya ego the cotton state on the open space and the trade of ego nas ago fan seek so with the car hanite na listening joy with that next slide please.
Tony,
yeah.
Casey Francisco is going to cover the conservation area slide through the agriculture area. Give you a break.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Ago shayat adent shnant that is not agi. She ben hitch odish ask nanal kidigi. Did yadiskistot jigi ya conservation areas na. I don't want the cargo that not anyways how so a conservation area endangered and threatened species if not did the no carb card land sagi sao hashin so ligi aba hasan I don't that's agenda kagi do nana sto le the nei da bednia juba kan dal day edo that agishin a konat an linigi kaya bashata hatzo to list. Aro twin todan linigi twins toligo dan linigi aro sahoshi e ya toi would that a hegishi a conbashata hatzo to list. Aro hunne e ya culture resource to that a linigi and a sazan kone ni zaza the betskila konda ketel out saho that aro da the yenogo konda hollo. Lego das jut a sanctuary that what are the yochi aro da de yenogo aron did the lini kon kadatin ban not that nasto that in litigation the combat hat so to it aro kwa a development no development the can sado aro can yajan nada hat nito she a she kwa esto aba hat shit to it with a has ado it. Next slide. I don't say the data what is in lineage a development focus area. Hashin so what is quoted Nakiyats is a tango, Jones case go to a teeny she bahas and go at that was niche. It says they do I don't the aid quoted. Hashin so what ada kont istlej do les what that ein zini aron da equator da kinaj jago che lego da Cameron that ado to the city jo bet hata hasto so kon kinigi nada hat ni sigi je put a ya con buffer zone ishi kwe kinada net or lace. Ado saw a yard and need unlaid partners and overcast Ado Jada Dan hat Agi a con the Agi has a by the way gap that Agi do con the partners and logo Jada Dan be kick out that whole ya. I don't like kinado navigation that I had any can sado can nadot atigi a hot edo lis a na sosi state no dato lis GD kudo a anasado a the nadat no jinshiki a that a hot edo lis a would ashi a bahono sendo lis di kudo. Next slide. Aro de ke yahi a ya kun Sodo is in Lenigi restricted development area. A Washington Sogot a bad a hot shit or late. Can not out alligator sahod I not late so but has our hot a bad a hot shit. Cornable lash like yada hatos as in Lenigi that a in Lenigi abbots and hot eat or late. A quad the corner Nakia to Tanigi Hashin Sogo when that sort of late. A buffer zone is need or late. So what a has ad or late. I don't let Kinaj Jago Joe that again Tonanis has annual any Sanda had the ski or Joku. I need a conton that and na Joe that Agishi a about a hutch or late so that a can not out Atigi. Next slide. Aro did Tson Lenigi agriculture area. The Hashin Sogo A can has Anjerat Abin has 8 and the Bakan dan card a kun so has anigi ado saho a need net and a that the play do what a ya dak and then has aron that kindo kinarot aligi da so kun net ada yokade ishi what a has anigi ben nache aro at es so so go VP strategy at has a open spaces ne so that a can't and cardi by yesterday what a hun so go has seat or this could agriculture area. Go ahead and next slide would be you can turn it over back to you, Calvert.
Okay, thank you. Tony?
The Integrated Resource Management Plan has identified goals and objectives for better land management of natural resources to meet those goals and objectives. Adopting IRMP would not approve any site-specific projects. Future project-specific management options, such as resulting surface disturbance, will need additional site-specific environmental analysis under NEPA, that is an environmental assessment and/or NEPA or a decision on NEPA adequacy. Yeah, there you go. There's the IRMP programmatic environmental assessment. The Niki to a lata ishing to niso katishin on the sheet to a la and a packet of a gas kita. According to NASCO colleges for ya a to a DBA I initial a other shin hashin subject lata ishing benat agi alla doors niso alla behodos which a hashin footprint with the nisha hashin doors nish kayate other shin the hajo $1,000 to a dina al khan liniki arab and nachi hashin subject so the Nepa and the other guests on the site specific to the liniki a environmental assessment on single she bahad doors niche that the other short lay hashing social categorical exclusion that Diego to the National Environmental Policy Act NEPA unique to a hotek biyado be nachiki be landa is there. Next slide. The final PEA evaluates environmental impacts from surface disturbing management actions that are identified in the IRMP. Here are some examples: updating, expanding, and maintaining water distribution systems to improve access to clean potable water, mitigating sand dune migration, and installing pest management practices. di latte kaya ta hashin so but that in the show ya so kwa ake na san kin ba hashin so hadel ne sa haro kwa ake ala to ni sa so kwa ake bi ba hun to di ban si ba bi sa ki ya ban sa ki so di iron p do pa but na shi ne in ki so ba zin ko di the naked hat ingo I got ho wando hashin so ki ta na so ba na so ango na ta yagi so ben na shi ki di lash line kliniki todo do san stati tan kliniki so di ki ha ba hasen no so la na ni so do kwa ki ni ya so we update, expand, maintain water distribution system. Me that I don't di torch ani nasko jot the nani kliniki ani inso I don't di torch inigi so hegi so ani inti ben na chiki so choi hat top otan linkla jo ka ako to den linkla so di edi so hare la to na normal hare la hare could to that or close that ni jo ka ki so para team I don't di la the kaya that as to hashing so was to bahas and all that nia so aro ba haya all this with the to conservation areas that with the nigo da halit e outdoors needs to open as at the ba haya with the as the otas it was the key to kwa gi to pa and sas kids and they taught us sang o ton da na do ton da but ke wo jo kwa gi ya ye go da set do aro ben da so the tonda la o ye da kilo da kwa ge to jo da ego to check and da with legi so hale ego to hot elo this short egi so man so da has kids aro of tonde don da has kini beni na do an da yo na has anegi na so the say yo but da yo no say de kilo na has adas legi so hale elo o tela do this igi so jo kwa ge so I don't know how to so what the children to niki that the halado ego baini tino hale apani to no believe the show that he got choice abitas so no be best management practice be nia kwage hale ego ha ishin that do ya ego has aniki hale ego ya been seed nishko do jo kwage na nishin liniki best management practice with the actual quite true need in on it when she ke ya ki the kage do sejiki do but ke eta do the thought seji do yo ha ye for the jo hale di session limiti ba hu ya do the jo hale di binan set in limiti bina ba kana sana do ego machine quite be obviously that. Next slide please. The final programmatic environmental assessment focuses on these resources that would be impacted or affected. There are many resources that would not be affected by adopting the IRMP. These resources are listed here. So the IRMP the programmatic environmental assessment piece initial Diego, but that they did that on the show to AD quack. The Kriegel Sing has unlocked the topography, the geology, or minerals, or environmental justice, or hunting, fishing, gathering, timber harvesting, hazardous materials, public health and safety, recreation, transportation network, Indian trust assets, socioeconomics, wilderness, visual setting, and climate change. These are the resources that would not be impacted by the implementation of the IRP programmatic environmental assessment. Next slide. resources not impacted. There are other resources that would not be impacted or affected by adopting the IRMP. These resources, special status species and cultural resources would still need to be inventoried to meet the final PEA mitigation measures and comply with existing Navajo Nation policies and procedures. The resources بدي أو إيجو بدأ أو أي سيجو أي أبا أو أصلي سنيجي جو أي كواجي سودينا كي was case أنا the special status species بدي نيجا جو إيدي that it كي أتبش كوني تنيجي أدو so cultural resources بدي نيجي جو إيدي عشان سوون كأول إنتو تو أنا جزازة ده زندة يعني جو إيه بدأ تيجي there would be no change in the biological resource land use clearance policies and procedures under the special species status species. Any future proposed development would be assessed for threatened, endangered, or other sensitive species. Under cultural resources, implementing the proposed action would not approve any site-specific development. Any future proposed development would be inventoried for cultural resources and traditional cultural properties. Jo idina later or the Hajada Bahashne, the IRP PEA bidi the art innovative stilo the hashing so that hand liniki I couldn't that Kayata Hibit is Nizo for one dot it the way a teen dot Nika Nigo art in the Hazo hashing so that car nego the J and the Ashi. So I give a date it all this. To add into the Hajoki, now I'll cut all this the ADH or AD yes, resources not impacted by the IRPPA in the Nikia. To have the AD site specific that as neck on the da add in the machine add the husband of next piece, next slide, please. Air quality impacts analysis. No significant adverse or beneficial effects on air quality are expected from implementing the proposed action. So AD quite get a nichina reina ingo ya so a niche ya eco so a has and even so in under no action thus emissions during construction activities and temporary will be localized to aid that hashing so that there is initial the needs and when the shade the she is near her one need she hashing that initially tape and actually quite say she quite should be or yeah eco idolation the shape in the NASCO issue on transit coalition. Proposed action dust and emissions during construction activities temporary localized integrated management of soils, water, agriculture, and livestock grazing would improve rangeland ecological health and reducing soil erosion. Positive impacts from stabilizing sand dunes. No significant adverse or beneficial effects on air quality are expected from implementing the proposed action. The Salata, IDA, the Prego, the China Ray, Ariano, the so our needs and actually Hashin somewhat the China Ray, Yados, Assertion on transit all this. I don't ego has started all this. I don't debate that the Shiki NASCO. They quite get they say that they'll argue contra your ego has Arnold the photo that you know this ego needs and all the naturally and how see next slide. Soil resource impacts analysis. No significant adverse effects on soils are expected from implementing the proposed action. So not the sage bị nạn sẽ để soil bị nia cho quite cái gì đó cái cao đó đi ăn cái này cái IRP đó cho quite cái đó đó cái tai à đó là bị nia cho thì soil mixing and compaction from disturbance under the no action needs and where soils are disturbed, increase or potential erosion, continuous soil loss, erosion, and diminished vegetation cover, agricultural tilling, disturbed soils, microbial life, and increased wind-blown soil loss. Okay, JAD no action though, no action. ADR has any out on alcohol just the AR sales which die your law so I don't know the that the Kenya with the initial so the your law tuna agajiki could have next all this so don't think ego rise upon attack case all this I don't so even that you did initial I think so Kenya chop in it out that time yeah so I get children on that so and the phone mix all this so that's what she do or yeah how long ago this so I don't so the so I got Katie yeah ego thing now you claro dan singo that I can't go even that she hasn't one that say the yeah ego but no none that dog was your yours or this so or that she was your that is all this to under the no action has on it the proposed action, then you go argue, we'll have these impacts. Soil mixing and compaction for disturbance where soils are disturbed, increased potential for erosion, reduce erosion, increase soil stability with integrated rangeland soil, water and vegetation management actions, develop and use different types of irrigation, and dryland farming practices to improve soil quality and limit wind-blown soil loss. No significant adverse effects on soils are expected from implementing proposed action. So the proposed action to what your AED says be done. Psyche not the soil the dignity hasn't so far. Bahoni Zenya, the Haila that the your soil is your ACD. She bahwa ni zeno do ego ya do听得懂的西do听得懂的西就一块个base ani that's ani na ni they na initial的西一块个创印度的ego di da na kao ya ego has ano的even na shi do会ada but has ano do so ego that next slide. Water quality impacts analysis. Yeah, just be under the no action. No significant effects on water quality expected from implementing the proposed action. Yeah, quite not was. No action the proposed action. So not the stage. Like it's not the twine is going link that or don't toilet with that link that's actually even 90 so what ego this so I guess about needs and all so I don't so not this so should our indicate so the machine they a taught that thing which should be taught that no should be that ego so that ego so that needs to jo hala coach down that age that indicate so it's a power needs and so the story like about needs and I don't so that the key at the chart indicate that ego I leave ego to a say do your do say do your is like quite needs and all this story I don't so been the magic that I go hashing to the chemicals with the initial they need it to be quite started the chilo at which is started over Tobaya at is a sector but short ego the lead to the legal is on the I'll say you the download that lecture say that is come to a that I don't think Tunda the now that to a crack is talking some what needs to know that is hard to get your hand so they put the hands on Tunda little Tunda Smigo what you hear in the asset that the Nina crack again to me crack again that is so to that so ego and then ain't open the shaky power the the proposed action the on the Yago it or ego the water quality the need of what that's another with that. Next slide. Water quantity impacts analysis. The proposed action is not expected to result in significant effects on water quantity. Not the indicate the actually under the proposed action the ego that according to the proposed action the the top needs to touch indicate the job and out of the load this todo top the net of thing so it is so it'll do the watch the has needed all this so to your ego and has ID is live in that so there's no impacts on the water quantity impacts here so able to all this vegetation impacts analysis. Under the proposed action, no significant adverse or beneficial effects on vegetation are likely. The proposed action should the ajon the yago not chiliki or as anadol to the or I ego vegetation removal or modification from ground disturbance, employ integrated noxious weed management, establish conservation areas, improve woodland management practices, preserve, restore, riparian wetland ecosystems. The NIA choy AD hala AD the AD Trini Aba needs to Banawi Agua AD Chiriki load on this to open that she I think so actually by our load on this. So ego AD there will be no adverse action, no significant adverse or beneficial effects to the ego has another content AD ego general machine was not on the proposed action local ego be stuff on this. Wildlife impacts analysis. Quite get done so nothing. That's chin not eggy than that. County tiniki so to quite about needs and wildlife niki to quite so with adherence to the existing policy and implementing BMP's breast management practice and the mitigation managers, no significant effects on wildlife are anticipated. So the wildlife niki doi ego the management plan the under proposed action 18 only. There will be no change in biological land resource clearance policies and procedures, habitat loss or modification of vegetation removal and ground disturbance, wildlife avoidance where activities are taking place, protective buffers along waterways, limit grazing access to riparian areas, restore wetlands, riparian areas and springs, habitat improvement projects. Each AD not obvious a lot of it, not given the or the not chiniki don that the wildlife the niki do that's a ego she fantastic kids of not I give up is like to even not yeah not there'll be minimal there'll be no significant effects on wildlife are anticipated. I don't mix. Agricultural impacts analysis. These effects on agriculture are not likely to be significant. In latte hashing so agriculture the negoya chain chian and near the akato aro the na glosh nani ki to a hala edit chian and yenani to a hot ego a yati haidos ato ego pedit it only ego that's it at ego edo down general that yeah by at ego the he quite about nasi kids agricultural land use permits with the NIA will continue to be maintained and permitted. Inventory agricultural land use permits and monitor annually with the NIA. How to restore agricultural areas of concern to preserve productive areas. Employ integrated not just weed management. Develop different irrigated and dryland farming practices to increase crop yields. Promote best management practices. Bansa case only not about India to AD not at on Lindo, Aro, Stoti, can he link and Glosh Nani Tanki, Cho Iniki is not Cho Kai is not about needs and all this store. The Aro Hashing so the bent on the Shiki is not by Mahadil Yado, the Ego di Cho Ingo, the Tiki, the Nashiki that Echo. Plus Arnold the Higi dot ya Kayagi ya Ito Kakiti Yagi ya Tito Mekina or that a Quagito how to Nisha. Aro Kunaki a grazing impact analysis here. Aro knowledge of 80 Hashing so the nanny clinically in the link or not or Hashing so kinetic Kaya the Nash show Kaya trios and what as Nido Aro children trios Niki. The proposed action would have no significant adverse effects on rangelands or livestock. The open rangeland for grazing and wildlife would be retained. Enforce Navajo Nation grazing regulations, permit requirements. Existing permits may need to be modified to reduce stocking rates to meet carrying capacity. Establish a former Bennett Freeze grazing committee. Establish a livestock management program. Restrict grazing from riparian, restoration, or preservation areas. Improve or repair livestock water features. The proposed action would have no significant adverse effects on rangelands or livestock grazing. Ego Kaya Panas, without people that she without tuning in order to ego Ben sees Nishko, Chin Latin Gilina, Narade, Kaya Trios, in the dog with elder Gatavi dos Tata. I couldn't see a with Elia at ego. Jing I Acho Ego or Ago has. But see case on the show over there. Next slide.
Okay, thank you, Tony. You're on slide 33, right? Last slide goes to Dr. Shabala. Are you available? But I guess I can go ahead and go through this questions and answers. Thank you very much, Resources Development Committee. With this presentation, as you have heard from the Western Agency Natural Resource Manager, we're looking at the IRMP, the Integrated Resource Management Plan for the former Bennett Freeze area, environmental assessment, programmatic environmental assessment. And what was analyzed was the two alternatives, and each of the alternatives basically reviewed if there was an impact, if there was no action, or the proposed action. So for example, the no action, There's no plans that are developed. We continue to move forward with no sort of plans of IRP. Although the proposed action, the IRP does have goals and objectives that were identified by the Navajo Nation. And for example, a good example that I would like to use is looking at the grazing impacts, analyzing the grazing impacts. NPL, stocking rate, carrying capacity. They has added because she don't depend on the vegetation added what that the former beneficiaries area the district grazing committee bundle Jido to I dance and then the former beneficiaries district grazing committee Department of Agriculture
Dr. Curley, Rudy Arshabala. So you can say I'm here.
Dr. Curley, are you done, sir?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. Dr. Shabala?
Chairman Nez, presentation got five. Bina Kiko has go with Abba Hunson. On later at Hanky Hot, Edo day, a cut at the Haton. She says, there is right now in existence, and it's very valid. There's a $250,000 planning grant from CHASN. The administrations prior to us guys about that to plan for this area between Bird Springs and Cameron along the Little Colorado River for development. There's also an approved resolution for approximately 30,000 acres to be developed. They wanted to plant sorghum, and that sorghum would be used for biodiesel fuel. But that resolution is still valid. In API, that area and this the feasibility studies for agricultural development. I call all of the Navajo Nation and other communities. And I think wherever you have agriculture, it positively benefits wildlife. There is elk herds that travel up and down the Little Colorado River. They come in from Canyon Diablo, Padre Canyon, and Zehala, Luta. There's elk and loop along the river. Mule deer, and so the way I understand it, and so thank you very, very much.
Yeah, Dr. Bala for that. Dr. Curley, so is BIA done with all the presentation today?
Yes, that's the presentation on the former Bennett Freeze IRP. Thank you.
Of course. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Curley, for your staff as well. Honorable members of RDC, Koroslat Bahnaidos Ketida.
Chairman Thomas Walker.
Honorable Vice Chair Walker, you have the floor.
Yes,
Thank you for the time here. Though committee members, though other colleagues of the 24th Council, though Dr. Shabala, though DNR, though Inanta, though Shana, other quiet, Gilinda of Nagi, BIA, though, Ashanos and Riyat, Ecuador, night kiddo, little Ashin, he dadet, it, though, lessons, and lay nasada, nasi, kato, Agido Bazani, Adni, it has Jean could take Carton Hadan, fishing Nache, Badawind, oh, but not Anzago. That reissuance of grazing permits within the NPL. The Aj Kaya Donald Glosh Kayachon Niki. A hot Ehigi it Aya not Quake or Washington Yenjitana. At the rating I don't Navajo Nation Tele Zando Nakada Inishiki Edo Kaya Hikidez Edo Nal Glosh Hikidez E Toda Adi Kodano Yahadazi Kaya Hakidasi now the Nesta the Joe Quaggy Ado Kod the Kaya Trinil Iniki A Quaggy A actually that doesn't see case. What a night dictator by Yati Dana Nal Gloshigit. I had a nail yard in Hayat after they bit benel, then no bit the nail nado. But out Hayat Nathan Harden Hina. I see a puzzle Nal Gloshigi what out the nan hidden Yahada Zito Quaggy Ada Al Gloshanel Nail Yahiki. I don't hear Kaya for car hot Eggy. I don't dinner the car nas car Nigi in the Jade Quijashin Nanas I think what are the hours and other Lebanon. I think it all not the car with a husband. Not Aki it large the Edoli Shawins in the car. Or Jokai get Chito lit a Dana Bansi in the 8 adult need a bench as Nagi. I let a chitet Jokai get had it not as on the Adnish Argentim Danish. Dana Ahat Abba or Z as Gloshigila had an elder Diego. Then there's not a there's Adolish, Lebanon social Yagi, Archer in PLG. The cat, it don't not Gloshni, the Hikido Bez Ani, H.Yosh Idoliki, but I just so Johano. Dana, the Yanda Okato, but all legislator need, then he bishwas, and the church Jahe, or the North Catch no. Yeah, seen him I called a year. I don't teach home bench has Nike quite again. Let out sit at that. So it yet I thought how big it was la store. And the buyer gate or yet that is a ton of one such case. Even a Beha Dodge Codotion at the kitchen and chairman or committee members. Okay, the land is get on.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Dr. Curley.
Thank you very much. Delegate Walker, the question is, how is this connected to the Navajo partition land? Dana carrying capacity by Yati or Nahonad Oko Aje Navajo partition land Jike an agriculture resource management plan Echatelia Echatel Nahat na Eya stop range inventory Idalia Oko a range inventory Idalia Kaun Eya carrying capacity develop Idalia Kunela the Bena Kaikobiga Agi Oko the agriculture resource rangeland management plan Ishnigo environmental assessment has outside of NPL the resource management plan the Navajo Nation activate ado the peso bani Navajo Nation Department of Fish and Wildlife peso be nel not us a lot of resource management plan ado a plan in lead range inventory Italiaki carrying capacity the Quishibekashi the Benda Kagobiga Kwakaya has aniki able to not nilo a plan niki so don't need hot aba not former Bennett Freeze integrated resource management plan niki at this point the agriculture resource management plan Hadiliago she it's now need so she's in the bandit in Leco. Tony, I'm not sure if you want to add any.
Robbins?
I'm going to hear, yeah, this is Tony. Mainly, he not only the integrated resource management plan, a hashing so the quick thing not I big ST to 18 that the Kaya shot in again cannot be card over Kaiki. That I get and I don't stop the don't let it lash line it, then Kaya chuni in a give a cat county, hashing so so Niki to a thought ya yen. So I don't Nashikiti the rehabilitation that I'm lingo to even that I cycle the quick sing at your whole castle the ego even integrated resource management plan. We're looking at multiple resources, not just the agricultural part or the rangeland part of it, but the thought thought the raising range management plan, but is nickel, but that's no auto, no agriculture, cropland management plan. That would be nickel. So about these nickel. So when the AD IRMP give Yadogo had the tail and name that date. That's what he that date. So what ego even not yet. What ego the benefits key what ego meaning. I don't that's a strong. Hopefully answer that questions or at least address some of the issues.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, do you have a follow-up question, sir?
Thank you, Chairman, committee members and presenters and the audience. I appreciate the response. But I has an idea. I bought on that history kitten the up in that housing cho hotel. At the edge of the bed at ego and I dictator yet echo cho and I think the not a hotel never can hold Jesus. Chinand I don't care if the will negi. Chot Dana a yego in that case in a eight DD MPL I see. We get it glad now a panda seat in Akotati ada the Nahata at the band to the case Joe in the Queenston chapter behind the could you big Navajo the former Bennett Freeze yet that in the rage of Kayaskin took a former in a slate on the big Navajo a petty what I want to take case. But Dana Baho Zigit the arch what an Bahwin it opened that big Navajo Edo to Bahwin either John Hidoni. We could MPL that Monsieur Honet, Ledger had no. Eat Adam that you would out in the Yan Zakis. Nishanan, she don't have Washington, Digi, or that it and then high national. Ito Navajo Nation do akuti nigo ben yanni da do ben nail na shot the nen hinasla do jo kwage but the nehgi ada nakat and yitin and yike e di yaki e chokale da kwe je get e be in na wallo she a honda di ka e ta chen ada never try but try yanni da e on a range to not in danger to the honey dada. On the quid sheet of castle, I could a bed nation. I could echo at needs I quite a or ashiki, fails the diggy. I quite a balconets and I it and then now. Yeah. But did Kaya been on store Kaya to Dorney. Been a plan, different plans for aid by Yati cropland, rangeland. A quite not adole, he gave you a Jordan's others about Bani, Kajon Sodo, Bansas case. And the nasty queen Nana had that in the art ended at has on the in it again, he came about Lord or in PLA, the former Bennett Freeze, Janana. Art ended though, bigger Navajo, big Navajo, great Navajo, Edo, Abanaho in either. Jokai and Jinas in Hidden. Leshe hit out Edo, to Ben Hadia, to Bebanhat Ada. Maybe cake at the door, not at all, but neither John gets Neko. Or that on Niki a could a Dana, the name that's in the Action. I do represent these lands and these areas, what I call different jurisdictions. As on it, that ordinator Yadash, that and even a Queenston, Chinanda, Osabe has still a digi. I didn't have a yana, yet a conclusion innocent. I take it Nika, Shinza Nahish. I could echo. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak again.
Thank you very much, Honorable Vice Chair Walker, for your concerns and your statement here on the former Bennett Freeze areas integrated resource management plan. Are there any other comments or questions? Honorable Otto Show, are you on the call? An Atanyako. We're down to questions and recommendations follow-up. Dr. Curley, as well as Dr. Shabala. Rona Kigo alternatives. Ikishi Ron Hinanta. Arazat Nabi Gatoles. Aro legislation Shinkatel Netales. So Aro Peshmahas Andats Yeah, Honorable So, Aro Banagi, Honorable Paul Begay. What end? What end his nahas neto? I would appreciate it. PIA, if you would make, or Mr. Tahi, make copies of this presentation for us, since it cannot be sent through email, and put it in our box, and also distribute to Honorable Otto So and Honorable Paul Begay so they can review the PowerPoint presentation. I was watching it, and towards the end there, my internet got cut off, so I lost the last probably three pages of the PowerPoint. So if you would do that, Mr. Tahi.
Chairman members of RDC, yes, I'll get a copy of this presentation and I'll distribute it to RDC members as well as Delegate Paul Begay and Delegate Otto. So back to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Honorable members of RDC, any other comments or questions? Then, yeah. Here, Dr. Curley, also Mr. Tony Robbins, Mr. Leonard Nota. So, honest what I see, Dr. Shabala, as well as Mr. Davis Filford from the President's Office, to make a decision, and also a legislation will be produced as to which alternative option we will go with. So thank you all for your time. Certainly appreciate it, and we can go ahead and adjourn this meeting at this time. It is currently 10:49. Y'all be safe out there, and may God be with each and every one of you. Hakona.
Thank you, chairs, all committee, staff, everyone on the call. Yeah, have a good day.
Biga.
Chairman, thank you very much. This is Delegate So. Thank you.
Biga. Honorable So, you'll have a copy of the presentation in your box. Mr. Tahi is going to print it out.
Okay, all righty. Well, appreciate the conversation and listen to BIA. So, yeah.
So two Hakona.